And we continue at 2:06 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in New Mexico.
John, it's time for a crime blotter quickie as another gas station in Oakland got crashed into.
Breaking overnight, Oakland police are investigating after an SUV was used to break into a gas station convenience store. It happened around 3 this morning at the Arco AM/PM on MacArthur Boulevard and 106th Avenue. You can see the front windows were smashed in along with the rear window of this SUV.
Wait a second. Does that mean after the car crashed into the gas station, that car got bipped?
It sounds like it.
Bipping is back?
That's a 2-for-1.
I've been bipped several times.
Although, why would you bip a car that was just used as a battering ram?
Because Oakland.
That's true. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He's the author of the book Liberal Misery, available online at Amazon.com. He's also a journalist with the Federalist and New York Post. You can get him online at eddiescarry.substack.com and follow him on X at eScarry, 2 R's in Scary. Eddie Scarry, welcome.
Hey, John, happy to be here.
Well, thanks so much for stopping by. And I've got to tell you, I think there is a little dose of reality that's coming to California that the people here are not prepared for. For a long time, we have all of these laws on the books that no one really enforces. There is no expectation of these laws ever being enforced, whether it is immigration law or it is quality of life laws. Even now, you can throw in things like retail theft and crimes that are determined by the state of California to be nonviolent, where people could just do things like steal copper wire and get away with it, and there's no expectation that they're going to get caught. And if something happens where they do it right in front of the face of a police officer and they get caught, it's like getting a traffic ticket. They give you a ticket, and then you can do with it what you want. But now with the federal government here enforcing immigration law and enforcing other laws like assaulting a federal officer or destroying federal property, the local DA isn't going to be the one that has jurisdiction over this. The federal government will. And the U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, Bill Asaley, says he's going to throw the book at these people for assaulting federal officers, destroying federal property, those sorts of things. Most recently, it was a group of people who were putting out spike strips to try to blow out the tires of ICE vehicles so they couldn't carry out their raids. What do you think is going to happen when this dose of reality comes to a place where people are used to being able to get away with doing whatever the hell they want to do, and now all of a sudden the party's over?
I think a lot of places are getting that exact same reality check, and it's even at the federal level because, I mean, we're really getting, with this administration, a long overdue reality check, a constitutional check. Because if you look at what a lot of the Trump administration has done, what President Trump has done, is he's had these very clever, very knowledgeable people on his staff and his cabinet who they're not even trying to invent some new law, some novel concept of the Constitution, some new theory. They're going back and finding very explicit authority that the federal government has, that the executive of the federal government has, and saying, look, we can do this. And I think kind of to your point is a lot of these laws kind of sat there and dormant because we had our quote unquote norms about who kind of defers to who. Well, you know, that maybe works for a period of time, but when you had these deep blue cities, and in some cases states like California, New York, when you had them basically saying, we're going to do whatever we want, we're going to create real chaos, and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, it turns out there's actually a lot that the federal government can do. And I don't know how we forgot this, but the federal government, the authority of the federal government supersedes that of the state level, certainly the city level. And I think this was long overdue. It's too bad that it had to get to this, but it really is a good thing.
What do you think these blue cities and states are going to do if the Trump administration is telling the truth? And by that, I mean, they say they're going to continue the raids. They're going to continue to prosecute people that assault these federal officers or destroy federal property. They're not going to be intimidated by large crowds. They're not going to be intimidated by politicians wagging their finger. And they're just going to keep moving forward until the job is done. Do you think that these blue cities and states are going to, let's say, eliminate their sanctuary status so that the feds can just go into the jails and prisons, which they say they're happy to do? But if they're prevented from going there, they're going to cast a wider net and they're going to get whoever they can get in the community. What do you think these blue cities and states are going to do in this game of chicken if the feds don't back down?
Well, if there was a smart Democrat Party now, the idea would be to adjust because we need to win elections, and clearly this is I would take the point that there are a lot of people who voted for Trump that they did not expect this, but they certainly look at this and go, well, maybe I didn't vote for that, but I also am not interested in Democrat, officials, elected officials on the local level or even in Congress who are going to fight tooth and nail on behalf of criminals, illegal aliens, people who have no right to be here, who Democrats had no right telling them they could come in and expect to stay indefinitely. They had no right to do those things. So I think a lot of the independents, the average voters, so not necessarily the diehard partisans, they're looking at that and say, well, I wasn't really expecting this, but if you're asking me to take a side, I'm certainly not throwing in with the mayors and the governors, the Democrat mayors, Democrat governors, city councils, these far left city councils. That I've been surprised to find out how much power some of these city councils have. I don't think the average voter is saying I'm going to take your side because, again, I think if Democrats, if it was a smart party, they could pick and choose their battles in a way that I think would be smarter. But I really think that this Trump 2.0 and the people he has around him, they have been really smart because they have decided we're going to go all in on these top 5 issues. And it turns out, and it's become cliche at this point, but these top 5 issues are 80-20, where they've got 80% of the public on their side, 20% opposition, and the 20% opposition is these crazy Democrats. But as far as what they're going to do, I would say that they're completely powerless, at least for another year or so, year and a half or so. But I don't know. We have seen what Democrats are willing to do when they feel not even like their back is against the wall, but that their power has been threatened to some degree. They will go pretty far, and that does include violence. I hope that it doesn't get any worse than what we have seen, but I certainly wouldn't rule it out.
What is the impulse? And we're seeing this not just with immigration, where they are taking the position of we are not going to cooperate with you in our prisons and jails because convicted fill in the blanks are family members too. And just because someone slipped up and robbed a bank or did this or did that doesn't mean that they're not a good family person. And by deporting them, you are separating families, which is the position that they're essentially taking. But that's what they're doing across the board. Where you take gay rights, for example, that is an issue where gay rights have moved in this country dramatically from where we were. You don't even have to go back to the 70s and 80s, but even the 1990s, where now you basically have large majorities who believe in gay marriage, who believe in gay adoption, who believe in getting rid of don't ask, don't tell, those sorts of things. But now it's like they're taking the position of, well, unless you support transgendered athletes in girls' sports, then you're not with us and you're a hater. And you say to yourself, okay, well, you're taking all of these people who would otherwise be allies. You're taking your most unpopular position and you're turning that into the litmus test. And they're doing that across the board. And it's just totally suicidal to me.
I agree with you. And I honestly, it's going to sound very simple, but I do believe it is this simple. I believe the Democrat Party, writ large, has become just a completely anti-American party. You can look at the things that they do, the biggest issues of these, the last 6 months or whatever it's been of the Trump administration, fighting. And they're not even interested, by the way, in winning an argument. They don't really make arguments. They might try at first, but it really becomes about force. They quickly move to force. But I think right now we're still at the court level, like relying on these courts to do these, and they're losing that power very quickly too via the Supreme Court with these nationwide and these universal injunctions that these local level courts were doing. Well, they don't really quite have that power as much anymore. But no, you look at what they did with Doge. Doge comes in and says, we're just going to eliminate some waste. If you spent any time in Washington and you knew the people in Washington, you knew the people, like they were your friends oftentimes, they would admit it, that they were making six figures. They barely had to work. They had all this time off, these giant pensions, these obscene benefits. Those are for very, very minimal work, and there were endless, numbers of them. And so Doge comes in and says, we want to cut that. We want to. There's no need for that. There's no need to have this geographical discrepancy and equality where Washington is just everybody is rich because they work for the federal government. And Democrats, they would not hear it. They did not want to hear it. You look at what they did with Abrego Garcia. I'll never get over Van Hollen, the senator in Maryland, the Democrat who. They send an admitted, a professed illegal alien back to his home country. And this man travels on taxpayer dollars to go fetch him and bring him back into the country. It's just, you just look at those things and you could take any one of the major issues and it's like, what are you doing? And you can't possibly think this is popular. And maybe there's something to be said of, well, I'm standing up against Trump. Well, okay, but maybe pick the issue where Trump is really out of line. I mean, I could think of several, and like maybe just not so totally out of line, but at least questionable. You might make that case, but that's not what they do. They instead go to bat for bureaucrats, the least sympathetic people on earth. That's who they defend, and again, tooth and nail, defend them and say you can't do that. And it's you just kind of look at it and are like, you've really, really lost it.
Let me provide a different argument for you, because while I think that many of the positions that they take are anti-American, I don't think that's due north for them. I think that Trump derangement syndrome is real, and I think that what they are basically is anti-Trump. And if Trump comes out in favor of something, they just reflexively take the opposite position, regardless of whatever their position was yesterday. And Trump has benefited from that largely because for whatever reason, Trump brings out the worst impulses in his political opponents where, they're sharp as a tack when they're running against someone else. But suddenly when they're up against Trump, they do things that are completely irrational that don't benefit them politically at all. I'll give you an example. Nancy Pelosi has spent basically her entire career as a critic of China. She is someone who always voted against most favored nations for China. She did not want China to enter the WTO. When Joe Biden said, don't you go to Taiwan, she said, I'm going to get on the plane and I'm going to take a delegation with me and you're not going to stop me. That has been something that's been a constant throughout her career. If you read her book about power, which I did, it is the longest chapter in the book. She really seemed to have a passion for going after the CCP, the Chinese government. It seemed to be a very personal thing for her. Yet when Trump gets elected and essentially is enacting in the policy everything that she's been advocating for her entire career, she still trashed him for doing it. And she was totally opposed to everything that he did regarding China, which was trying to fix a lot of these problems using trade laws to do it, which is what she had been advocating for. And it wasn't necessarily that her ideology had changed or that she saw an argument that was more compelling. I think it was just as simple as Trump did what she was advocating for, so what she was advocating for has to be bad, and she has to take the opposite position.
So I think that we're actually saying the same thing, but in different ways. I think that you're looking at it in a more personal level, and it's about Trump, the person. And I agree with that too. And maybe just I would say it in a different way. And I say this with all sincerity. I think Trump represents a lot of things that are classically American. He's very masculine. He believes everyone should do what they want to do. He believes in cheap energy. He believes in fairness. I really do. It may not be a conscious thing. He's a very smart person. These are maybe things that he wasn't, super introspective about. It's not like he had this well-formed ideology, but I think that he genuinely, and was the first one in my lifetime at least, who came in and I think didn't know that there's this giant apparatus, some people call it the deep state, I call it the permanent bureaucracy, and its enablers, which are both Republican and Democrat. I think a lot of things have changed, first of all, since certain Democrats voiced certain opinions, but I really do think that a lot of them didn't really believe what they said, and not just Democrats. I would take Republicans too. Republicans forever were talked about being pro-life, anti-abortion. They talked about being for controlled borders, no open borders, and they did nothing. They did nothing. Trump came in and actually made genuine efforts, unlike anyone before him. And that this is not someone who's perfect by any means, but I think that they looked at him as someone who was not part of the system, was not part of the game that they're so used to playing, the theatrics of it all, where you can take a position, but do you have to do anything? Do you actually expect to solve it? Well, no, because then we've lost the issue. Now we can't raise money on it. Now I might not get elected because I've got no money. I really think that Trump was such a unique difference in that sense, that they looked at it and someone who really did come in and was interested in doing the job, was interested in actually affecting change. And that really bothered them. And I really do think that it was these things that was like, I want a big middle class. I want people to worship the way they want to. I do believe in these classical American concepts. And I think that Republicans were like, oh my God, that's someone who's going to do something. But I think Democrats looked at it and said, oh, God, that is someone who's going to do something, and I hate it. I hate it. And so I think to a degree we're actually saying the same thing, I think in just different ways.
Eddie Scarry, author of the book Liberal Misery, available online at Amazon.com. You can read him in the pages of The Federalist and New York Post and at eddiescarry.substack.com. And you can follow him on X at eScarry, 2 R's and Scary. Eddie Scarry, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks so much, John.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, with the end of the show about a half hour away, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
Absolutely.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can do a Google on the YouTube. Get the KABC app. Get the KSFO app. Listen to these shows wherever you go. Listen to them in the car. If you're listening to them in the car through your iPhone, make sure you don't leave that in the car because you will get bipped.
Bipping is back.
And we're now on the air in Fresno.
Every Saturday from 2 to 3, catch the Fix California Hour with John Phillips and Randy Wang on KMJ in Fresno, serving the Central Valley. It's 580 on the AM dial, 105.9 FM, and streaming at kmjnow.com.
So we had a technical glitch earlier in the program, and the first half hour of the show was not played live on the air in the Bay Area. It was about crime in Oakland. So we're going to go ahead and replay it for you coming up at 2:35. So if you're in the Bay Area, you missed it, you definitely want to hear it. If you're in Los Angeles, it's so crazy you need to hear it twice.
John, Antonio Villaraigosa's extra low budget campaign for governor continues as his latest video shows him shopping for avocados at a Target.
Like the rest of us, I have to shop. The one thing you could see is that prices are going up because of tariffs and because we haven't had leadership focused enough on the high cost of living. I promise, as governor, I'll focus on you.
What do you think he's making with those avocados?
Don't you need some kind of permit to shoot a political video inside a Target?
No, you can do whatever you want. It's anything goes. Now, I'm sure he wants you to believe that he's going to make some guacamole for the game, invite some friends over, put out a bowl of chips. But doesn't Tony V live up in the Hollywood Hills now?
Oh, yeah.
I bet you he's making some kind of real fancy avocado toast.
You think all the guests get that, or does he make that for himself and his honored guests, and the rest of them just get a bowl of
no peanut?
Could be the case. For whatever reason now on avocado toast, they're getting real fancy with it. If you're ever lucky enough to be at the Admiral's Club at the airport in the morning, they'll make it for you right there. They have an avocado toast bar, and they'll even put smoked salmon or prosciutto on top.
Now that's fancy.
And I'm a fan. Maybe Tony V and I have that in common. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, the big news this week centers around what happened at MacArthur Park at the beginning of the week when ICE and federal agents came into town to do a sweep through that park, a park that we know to be a den of drug use and criminality. Yesterday, we took calls for basically all 3 hours, finding out just exactly what your experiences were like at that park, a park that Gavin Newsom said in South Carolina was a beautiful park.
So beautiful.
If it were any prettier, it could compete in one of Donald Trump's pageants. But while all of this is going on, we also had other news going on in the state of California, including, Randy, well, a ray of sunlight in the city of Oakland, because that city, a city that's about as crime-plagued as MacArthur Park, went for a period of time without a murder.
Oakland went 25 days without a homicide.
That's got to be like some kind of Oakland record, isn't it?
Who else do we go call, Superman?
I think they did call Superman. Let's find out exactly what led to this massive drop in homicides, because this was already a record year for homicides in Oakland. Here's a report from ABC 7 in the Bay Area.
Well, moving on, a milestone for public safety in the East Bay. Oakland went 25 days without a homicide.
Do you think when you drive over the Bay Bridge and you see that sign that says "Welcome to Oakland," they have a little sign there that says "Days without a homicide," and they've put it at 25?
Yeah, like the billboards for smoking deaths that the Lung Association puts up. You know,
or
fun
at
fact,
any
Randy.
office,
Or what?
or any office that says "Days without an accident."
That too. And, you know, right next door to Oakland is Berkeley, where the University of California at Berkeley sits. And you know what they do to all the C students in the art program at Berkeley?
What's that?
They do the chalk outlines in Oakland.
At the end of May into June. In fact, police data shows violent crimes, including homicides and robberies, are down considerably there this year. ABC 7 News reporter J.R. Stone on the solutions that community advocates say are paying off.
I wonder if included in this story at all is the fact that a certain somebody is no longer the DA of Alameda County.
She called me a crime boss.
That could have something to do with it. Maybe they're not killing each other because they're all sitting around listening to her podcast.
The blue numbers that you're looking at show the year-to-year declines in Oakland crimes all across the board per Oakland police. They represent public safety improvement, and they're not going unnoticed.
I'm seeing reductions in homicides and reductions.
That is the one statistic you can't make up.
No, because you have to count the bodies.
Unless they're hiding the bodies.
Yeah, that's also a MacArthur Park thing.
And reductions in shootings. And we're just going to keep our pedal to the metal until we don't have all these homicides in Oakland.
That's Barbara Lafitte Oluwale of Faith in Action East Bay, a group directly involved in the city's ceasefire program.
Oh, this is the life coaches.
Oh, yes, life coaches. They make a very important contribution to society.
Which she says was audited and improved in 2023 Oakland police say there were no homicides in Oakland between May 30th this year to June 25th. They haven't seen those numbers in June for 5 years. Lafido Luwale believes ceasefire is having an impact.
So what it does is it focuses on those at very high risk of violence.
Along with that program.
And then what?
Well, that was Shang's signature program. And anything that is hatched in the brain of that woman is something we can certainly all have faith in.
We know that this job, it's never hard.
Thanks, Shang.
Forgot about that one.
Along with that program, CHP has helped police in Oakland. And last week, U.S. Marshals made multiple arrests.
Oh, that might have more to do with it than ceasefire.
Yeah, you think?
So over the 5 days, we did arrest 21 fugitives. Ended up working out almost exactly 2 to 3 a day.
Chris Tamayo clarified that none of those involved immigration cases. All involved people who were wanted for crimes ranging from robberies to parole violations.
I pulled our stats and we've arrested 67 fugitives since September 1st. So, over 6 months, we've arrested that many.
And while a July 4th homicide was proof that there are still challenges, an arrest has been made in that case.
Yeah, we may still be seen as the most dangerous city in the state.
That is quite a qualifier.
We may still be seen as the most dangerous city in the state. But the numbers are coming down and we are not giving up. I mean, we live here. We love this city. And in order for us to continue to live here, we have to make it safe for ourselves.
J.R. Stone, ABC 7 News.
So it is very, very, very good news that there was 25 days without a homicide. But, John, it got me curious. What was the murder that broke the streak? Would you like to find out?
Uh-oh. I have a feeling this is going to go off the rails.
It's time for the blotter, everybody.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions!
All right, Johnny, let's find out what the homicide was that broke the 25-day streak, and it happened on the 4th of July. Here is KTVU Fox 2.
Law enforcement was on high alert going into the holiday weekend, and yet violence still prevailed. Hello again. I'm Greg Lee. Police and fire.
Well, violence still prevails every day in Oakland.
Yeah. What is he, new?
Police and fire crews in Oakland spent the weekend responding to hundreds of calls. KTVU's Amber Lee joins us live in Oakland after speaking with a woman whose husband was allegedly killed by a friend during a party. Amber?
Uh-oh.
Killed at a party? Parties aren't supposed to be violent. That's where you celebrate.
Greg, the wife tells me her husband loved getting together with family and friends, and now she's in shock that the suspect is someone they considered to be a brother. This video shows Tim Conover hosting a July 4th barbecue at his North Oakland home just hours before he was shot and killed by a family friend attending the gathering.
So when you have a family and friend gathering, everyone brings their guns?
Well, I guess it depends on the family.
Like, it just was like a rapid, like, pop, 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 pop. It's like,
whoa.
Yeah. That's when you're shooting to kill.
Like, it just was like a rapid, like, pop, 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 pop. It's like, that's why fireworks in my head and everything's going off. Like, there's fireworks going on everywhere.
But they were not fireworks. They were gunshots. Zazie Cribbs, the victim's wife, tells me Dwayne Stewart, known as Wesley, fired multiple shots at her husband as people were leaving the gathering. She says Wesley had urinated in their living room.
Uh-oh.
Now, wait a minute. The one that got shot relieved themselves in the living room, or the one that did the shooting relieved themselves in the living room?
Let's make sure we get all the details of this case, so everyone get your notepads out.
Zazie Cribbs, the victim's wife, tells me Dwayne Stewart, known as Wesley, fired multiple shots at her husband as people were leaving the gathering. She says Wesley had urinated in their living room.
So I believe the shooter was the one that relieved himself in the living room, like a scene out of The Big Lebowski.
So he's rude and violent.
and that her husband repeatedly asked Wesley to lie down and go to sleep.
How about this? There's a bathroom for that. Go do that in there.
How loaded are you when you are choosing to do that in the middle of a living room? And if you know that you have a friend that gets that crazy at a party, maybe you got to check them for guns.
My guess is if they got this mad over it, they don't have tile or hardwood floors. I think we're talking about a shag rug here.
Because he appeared to be under the influence of drugs and alcohol.
You don't say.
That's a shocker.
People don't usually do that on a rug or a carpet unless they're trying to get back at you or they're super high and super drunk.
He appeared to be under the influence of drugs, alcohol, and diuretics.
Her husband died in front of their home.
So I start calling 911, and then I run down to try and stop my friends so they don't drive off because I'm going to need some kind of dope. Like, it's midnight. Like, I don't know what else to do.
Oakland Police Officers Association says 5 other people were victims of shootings in various parts of Oakland during the holiday weekend.
Oh, so I guess it's not a safer city.
Do you think someone was in the bathroom and he couldn't go, or do you think he chose to do it in the living room?
Seems like a deliberate thing. And then apparently got so offended that he didn't even ask him to leave. He asked him to go to sleep.
Yeah, if someone's in the bathroom and you really got to go, I guess you can go in the yard before you go on their furniture.
A police officer was struck and injured by a suspected drunk driver near Lake Merritt on Saturday while he was arresting someone.
Yes, crime is definitely down in Oakland.
Sounds like it.
The officer was treated and released. Oakland Fire Department says between July 4th and July 6th, it responded to more than 600 calls for service. 115 of them were fire-related.
Well, I told you, when I went there to see the Angels play the A's last season, you walk on this chain-link fence enclosed catwalk from the BART station to the stadium, and you walk over a homeless encampment of RVs where there are active fires.
Let's not forget that now we're at the 4-year anniversary of this clip.
Oh my God, they melted the basketball court.
Have you ever heard the phrase, don't play with fire?
Okay, I would not be able to tell the difference between a firework and a machine gun right there.
Yeah, was that taken from outside on July 4th or inside the living room after the incident?
And many were caused by illegal fireworks.
We were heavily taxed and strained throughout the weekend.
Officials say illegal fireworks caused the fire at a duplex in East Oakland on Friday night. 2 dogs and a cat were killed.
Oh, God!
Why do they have to do that?
1 person suffered smoke inhalation.
Having all our firehouses open, having fully staffed apparatus throughout the city enabled us to prevent significant injuries, to prevent major fires.
It's a family affair.
As for the homicide victim, Tim Conover, the 37-year-old loved barbecuing. His wife never imagined he would be killed by a friend they welcomed into their home. She has a message for the suspect.
Why? We were family. Like, all he wanted was for the best for you.
Well, he had other reasons, too.
Conover leaves behind his wife, a 9-year-old daughter, and a 5-year-old son. A relative has started an online fundraiser to help the family. Police have arrested the suspect. Now, the police union says officers also responded to at least 2 huge sideshows over the holiday weekend. Claudine, Greg.
An incredibly busy weekend in Oakland. Amberly, thank you.
Looks like the crime came back this weekend.
Now, I know that people are going to want to donate to the GoFundMe because this family is in crisis right now. The father, the breadwinner, is no longer there. And we want them to have all the resources they need to get through this horrific event. However, and I'm going to say this to you, the audience, because I care about you too. If to raise money, they sell some of their used furniture from their living room, think about that Poppy episode of Seinfeld and just save up and buy something new. I don't care how much you like their couches or chairs, their rugs. Take a pass. It's the John Phillips Show. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, with the end of the show quickly approaching, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can do what George Gascon likes to do to himself in the middle of the night because he's got nothing else to do these days.
Do a Google on YouTube.
Just search for The John Phillips Show on YouTube. You can like and subscribe and share those episodes with your friends or family. Put them in your Facebook groups. You can get the KABC app in Southern California, the KSFO app in Northern California, the KMJ app in the Central Valley, any of those, and you can take these things on the road with you. You going on vacation? Get a whole bunch of podcasts loaded up. Let's say you're going to Tijuana for the weekend.
There's a lot of prostitution, a lot of crimes.
It sounds like she's reading right off the Yelp page.